Okay, so get ready, because today we're diving into a career that's, well, it's about as glamorous as it sounds.
Yeah,
Fish, crustaceans, and mollusks distribution manager.
really rolls right off the tongue.
You got that right, a real mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
But it's not your average desk job, trust me.
Not at all.
You're talking like serious logistics,
Uh-huh.
international intrigue, maybe even a little
Yeah.
pirate fighting action. Okay, maybe not that last one. But
You never know.
you never know. It's out there.
It's out there, exactly.
But really, though, when you think about this role, it's a lot more important than people realize.
It really is.
Because we really are talking about that whole intricate system that gets seafood from, the ocean to your plate.
Right.
And there's a lot more to it.
A lot more to it than just tossing a fish in a truck.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's break this down a little bit.
Yeah.
What does a fish, crustaceans, and mollusks distribution manager actually do all day?
Well, I think the best way to understand it is to imagine. Right. So imagine a giant shipment of salmon is coming from Norway, let's say.
Okay.
And then, bam, a massive storm hits.
Oh, no.
And it just throws that whole supply chain into chaos, right?
Yeah.
And so our distribution manager, they're the one who gets that SOS call.
They're the one.
They're the ones who have to think on their feet. They've got to figure out, like, emergency shipping routes.
Oh, my God.
Maybe even deal with some chefs who are getting a little antsy because they're waiting on their salmon.
Right. Those are some high stakes.
It is a high-pressure role. Absolutely.
So you need a very particular set of skills, I imagine.
Absolutely.
You need some serious logistics, some market savvy,
That's right.
crisis management. I mean, this is a big one.
It is.
And it's interesting because our sources mention responsibilities,
Yeah.
like negotiating with suppliers.
Yeah.
You've got international shipping regulations.
Right.
And staying up to date on all of the, like, constantly evolving food safety standards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people often forget about the cold chain part of it all,
Oh, tell me more about that. Yeah.
Keeping everything at the right temperature. I mean, from the moment that fish is caught to the moment it hits the supermarket shelf, it's a whole delicate dance of logistics and technology.
Yeah.
A deep understanding of how these things, how long they last, perishability.
Right. So it's more than just, I like seafood.
Yeah, you've got to have a passion for it. Yeah,
She's going to be a master strategist. I like it.
absolutely.
Like we said, logistics. You've got to be on top of all those regulations. That's incredible.
It is.
So where do you even start to, like, acquire all of that expertise?
Yeah, I think you might be surprised to learn that a lot of these skills, they're transferable.
Oh.
Think about it. Have you ever worked in a fast-paced environment where you had to manage inventory, deal with those unexpected delays?
Right.
Or even maybe, you've got a customer who's really jonesing for their fish and chips, You've got to pacify them a little bit.
Okay, so I'm seeing it. So you're saying someone who's worked in a restaurant,
Absolutely.
maybe a grocery store, even a busy flower shop.
Yeah.
You're saying those are good stepping stones, potentially.
Absolutely, because it's all about understanding that flow of goods, right?
Yeah.
And being able to adapt, because things are always changing.
Right. Speaking of changing,
Yeah.
I was not expecting this whole blockchain technology in the seafood world.
Yeah.
What? It sounds like something out of a movie.
I know, right?
Yeah, so break that down for us.
All right, so you're at a restaurant, you're about to order some fancy tuna, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thanks to blockchain, you might be able to trace its entire journey from the moment it was swimming around in the ocean
All right.
to your plate, like a digital passport.
No way.
Yeah, showing you where it came from, making sure it was caught sustainably and ethically.
That is incredible. So they're not just getting the seafood to us.
Yeah.
They're playing a key role in, like you said, combating the illegal fishing and promoting sustainability.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's what employers want to see, right?
Right.
Like, people really care where their food comes from these days.
Right.
It's not just about, is it tasty? It's also, is it ethical? What's the impact?
Right, so you're almost like a detective, a diplomat, like all these things rolled into one.
It's true.
So, okay, let's say someone's hooked. Now,
Okay.
I had to get the pun in there.
I see what you did there.
What are, like, the main pros and cons they should be aware of? Because it can't all be smooth sailing, right?
Oh, absolutely not. There are definitely some trade-offs.
Okay.
I mean, on the plus side, think travel.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Sometimes to some pretty cool places,
Right.
right? You could end up inspecting a shrimp farm in Thailand or visiting a salmon fishery in Alaska.
Sign me up for the Alaskan one.
Right. So much better than a cubicle.
Way better.
There's a but.
There's always a but. Remember that high-pressure scenario we talked about earlier? That's not a one-time thing.
Right.
It's fast-paced. It's demanding.
Yeah.
Things can change like that.
Oh, I bet.
You've got delays, spoilage, the market fluctuates. It comes with the territory.
Wow.
So if you're someone who thrives on that, loves adrenaline, problem solving,
Yeah.
this could be amazing for you.
Okay.
But if you're looking for that predictable 9 to 5,
Yeah.
this might not be it.
This is not the one.
Yeah.
Okay, so this job, definitely not for the faint of heart.
Not at all.
But for those who are, maybe brave enough to take the plunge.
Right.
What are we looking at long term? I mean, is this a career that has some staying power?
It really does.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, the global demand for seafood is only going up.
It's true.
And so that means we need more and more people who can handle this supply chain.
Right. It's only becoming more complex.
Exactly. So yeah, there's a ton of growth potential, especially if you like to learn new things.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Because this is not a static industry.
Not at all.
It's constantly changing, so our sources mention this whole continuous learning thing.
Yeah.
So what does that look like practically? Like, what is a fish, crustaceans, and mollusks distribution manager doing to, stay on top of their game?
Okay, so it's definitely more than just, flipping through a fishing magazine every now and then.
Yeah.
It's really about always trying to learn new things, right? Refining your skills, making those connections, attending those conferences,
Yeah.
You snooze, you lose in this industry.
Yes. Got to be hungry.
Got to be hungry, exactly.
But how do you show that in an interview?
That's a good question.
How do you show them you're hungry?
Right, because I read books about fish is probably not going to cut it.
Probably not going to cut it.
You've got to be specific,
Okay.
right? Talk about, industry publications.
Okay.
What are you reading? Are there online forums you're a part of?
I like it.
Maybe you've even taken a course, learned a software program,
Yep.
Show them that you're not just keeping up, you're ahead of the curve.
It's using to be proactive.
Be proactive, exactly.
I like it. All right, speaking of proactive, conflict resolution.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one. Our guide mentioned that.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine, right? You've got perishable goods, you've got deadlines, you've got all these personalities.
Exactly. It can get a little heated.
So how do you navigate that?
I think the first thing is to accept that conflicts will happen.
Right.
A shipment's going to get delayed, or a supplier's going to change their pricing, or there's going to be miscommunication.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen, so it's not about avoiding it altogether.
Okay.
It's about how you handle it when it does.
Okay, so our sources actually mentioned this interview question
Uh-huh.
about a time that you had to resolve a conflict
Yeah.
with a supplier or a distributor. How do you answer that question well?
I think you want to focus on staying calm under pressure.
Okay.
Really listening to what the other person is saying. Trying to find a solution that works for everyone.
Because it's not about placing blame.
Right.
Right?
No.
It's about, like you said, finding a solution.
It's about keeping things moving, yeah.
So you're like a seafood diplomat. I love it.
That's a good way to put it.
So career progression. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Because our guide had a pretty clear, path outlined.
Yeah.
From entry level all the way up to those senior roles.
Absolutely.
So walk us through that. What would that look like?
So you might start as a coordinator, making sure all the deliveries happen on time, managing the inventory, and then as you gain experience,
Yeah.
maybe you're supervising other coordinators, you're managing a region,
Okay.
and then from there, you could become the big dog, the distribution manager.
Nice.
You're coming up with the strategies, you're negotiating those big contracts,
Wow. Yeah.
and then who knows, maybe you're overseeing national or even global operations one day.
That's amazing. So there's room to grow.
Absolutely.
You're leveling up. I like it, like a video game.
I like that. That's a good analogy.
But really, I mean, that's pretty impressive for, kind of a niche field.
It's true. And what's great? Even if down the line you're like, you know what, I'm done with the fish.
Okay.
These skills, they go a long way.
Right. Because you're managing things, you're negotiating.
Exactly.
You have to be on it.
Exactly. So those skills are super valuable no matter what you end up doing.
So all those skills are transferable. I love it.
They are.
Okay. So our guide mentioned this whole international seafood distribution.
Right.
So clearly there's a big global component here.
Oh, absolutely. Because, think about it.
Yeah.
That piece of tuna we talked about, maybe it was caught in Japan,
Right.
processed in China, shipped to a restaurant in New York.
All in, what, a couple of days?
Exactly.
That's incredible.
It is pretty amazing.
So what advice would you give to someone who's like, that's the part I'm interested in, but maybe they've never worked internationally?
Yeah, that's tough because nothing really replaces that firsthand experience. Right.
But there are things you can do,
Oh.
like learn about importing and exporting regulations,
Yeah.
different cultural norms, maybe even learn a few phrases in another language.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, just little things to show you've thought about it.
You're thinking ahead.
Exactly.
So, okay, staying ahead of the curve. Any final thoughts on that? Because, like we said, things are always changing.
Yeah, it's about staying informed, right?
Yeah.
What are the new technologies?
Yeah.
How are consumer preferences changing? What's the impact on the environment?
Right.
Like, did you know there are companies now that use AI to track fishing vessels and stop illegal fishing?
Really?
It's amazing.
That's incredible.
So it's high-tech and sustainable.
I love it.
Exactly. And that's what makes this field so exciting.
Okay, so we've talked about the skills, the challenges, the global reach.
Just a lot.
It is a lot. But let's go back to sustainability for a second because that really seems to be crucial.
So how does that actually play out in the day-to-day for a fish, crustaceans, and mollusks distribution manager?
It really is, and it's more than just a buzzword, you know?
Right, it's becoming really important.
It's not a trend. It's not going away.
Right.
This is how we have to do business now. So for a distribution manager, it's about making those good choices at every step, you know?
So more than just, like, eco-friendly fishing nets.
Oh, way more. Yeah, you really have to get the whole picture, you know, the whole life cycle of that fish.
Okay.
So for example, let's say you've got a manager.
Okay.
And they can get shrimp from one place cheaper, but the other place has those stricter regulations, maybe treats their workers better, you know?
Right, it's a dilemma.
Exactly. You have to balance that bottom line with doing the right thing.
So it's a lot of responsibility.
It is.
I mean, you're influencing the success of your company.
Yeah.
But also, like, the health of our oceans, you know,
absolutely.
the livelihoods of these fishing communities.
It's all connected.
So it's really about thinking long-term.
Exactly. And that's what I would say to anyone interested in this field.
Okay.
Don't just focus on the bottom line. Think about the bigger picture.
Be an advocate for sustainability.
Exactly. Find those creative solutions.
So you're almost like a guardian of the seafood supply chain. I like it.
That's a good way to put it.
You're making sure it's efficient, it's profitable. Yeah. But it's also ethical and sustainable.
Exactly. We want this industry to be around for a long time, right?
Absolutely.
And this goes back to what we were saying before, those transferable skills.
Right.
You learn to deal with these complex issues. That's valuable everywhere.
So even if someone decides, you know what, fish aren't for me,
Right. I get it.
they could do so many other things.
Oh, absolutely. They could be consultants, work for environmental groups, you know.
Not so many different paths.
Exactly. The possibilities are really endless.
This has been so interesting. We went from, like,
It's a lot.
the really specific fish, crustaceans, and mollusks distribution manager title. Right. To, like, this whole global impact.
It's a wild ride, this industry.
It really is. And I think what we've really highlighted is that this isn't just a job.
No.
It's a chance to make a difference.
Absolutely. You can be a part of something important.
Yeah, you're a guardian of the ocean. You're a champion for ethical practices.
Maybe even a trendsetter.
Yeah. I mean, if that's not a recipe for a good career, I don't know what is.
I agree.
So for anyone listening who's like, okay, I'm a little intrigued, what do you recommend? What should they do?
Do your research. Talk to people in the industry. Maybe you volunteer.
Okay, get your feet wet a little bit.
Exactly. You never know where it might lead you.
And who knows, maybe they'll be the ones guiding us through this whole thing one day.
I hope so.
This has been The Deep Dive.
Until next time.
We'll catch you next time for another Career Deep Dive.